I'd like to welcome you, Alison, and yourself, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to ask you how you both came to found Paranormal Field Investigators.
Well, at the time we were investigating with other groups and we wanted to do it a slightly different way, and the only real way to do that would be to form our own group, to have the control on how we do things. That's sort of why we got into it and founded it.
And initially it was just the two of you?
Yes.
Originally it was, yes.
How do you get clients?
Mainly through the website where we advertise, that they actually do find us.
And how often do they contact you?
Oh, we get a couple a month that would ring us up.
What is some of the equipment that you use in your investigations and the research?
We use EMF meters or electromagnetic field meters that's used for looking for electricity and power units. We use thermometers, we use voice recorders, video cameras. We actually have another unit that we can set up for a week, 2 weeks, that works on sensors, and they'll trigger it off and it can tape for 4 minutes each time it's triggered off. So we don't have hours and hours of footage to look through.
And we got the wind and ambience meter as well.
The ambience meter, which will take wind, breeze and ambient temperature around you.
Security cameras as well.
Security cameras, yeah.
And I should make it clear at the beginning, the Paranormal Field Investigations is not a religious organisation at all, is it?
Not at all, no.
From the early days when you first started out, can you give me an example of one of your investigations that really had an impact on you?
The Old Adelaide Gaol is probably one of the most interesting ones, because we've basically been there for 5-6 years, and we're volunteers there, and we ghost tour guides, and we do all sorts of things there. Having that area to look at, over a long period of time, things do happen. So we've had quite a few interesting things there. My most recent one was I just finished a ghost tour, and it was about 11 at night, and we were just cleaning up after the supper, and I was sort of carrying a kettle and a couple of bits and pieces off to the kitchen, and looked down what's that known as the main pathway, and I saw a man standing down at the end of the pathway. Caught him at the corner of my eye originally, and sort of turned around, and he was still there. He looked at me, I looked at him, and we stared at each other for about 5 seconds. He was wearing a grey uniform, which was basically a prison uniform, and he just casually turned and walked up towards the graves. So he was so clear, I could actually find him in the records. It's a fellow called John Ballerman. He was executed in 1953. He was Adelaide's first serial killer, because he's got a very distinctive face and sort of hair and all that, so it was easy. We found a photograph of him, and it was quite what I saw, actually. It's quite amazing. I mean, it's sort of, if he walked towards me, it would have been different. He walked away, so I just took it, that was interesting. At the same time, trying to think, was it actually a real person, or because he was wearing the grey uniform, I thought, and where would he assigning myself in the jail, and I thought, that's really interesting. Again, it wasn't frightening, it was more, what was that? And of course I was holding a kettle instead of a camera, so it's only a story, but it's probably the clearest apparition I've ever seen. I've seen black forms and grey forms and misty figures and that kind of thing, but that was actually a solid figure, just like me looking at you now.
Did you actually feel as if you were interacting with him when he looked at you?
Yeah, I looked at him and he appeared to be staring at me, and we just had this look at each other eye off sort of thing, and then he just turned casually and walked back up towards the graves. But actually is where he's buried, about 20 metres further up that pathway he walked up. And I walked down towards it, and of course he was gone, but that was only about 4 weeks ago. That's not my scariest moment, but it's probably the clearest apparition I've ever seen. I could actually recognise it and find it in the records. Interesting thing was, the president of the Preservation Society came to the jail about 6 o'clock, 5:45 that evening, and she was walking down the same pathway, and she actually saw a grey form standing at the end of the pathway as well. Not as clear as what I saw, but I didn't know. She didn't tell me, and I sort of phoned her the next day, and she said, by the way, I saw a grey form as well down the other end. So it's not very common. I mean, to get multiple witnesses.
Beanie Man has been seen a few times.
Oh, Beanie Man is, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But we don't
know who he is. What we do is we give nicknames to a lot of the apparitions and ghosts we see, just so we recognise them straight away. He was on the first Adelaide Gaol workshop we did.
That's when Anna saw him, but he was originally seen when we had 3 investigators there investigating thunderstorms, see if it heightened activity. And one of our investigators actually saw a man walking up the walkway,
right, 2004, yeah.
And he disappeared off down the long tunnel, which is no doorways there where he could go. And we went running over there because we thought somebody had broken into the jail because he was so solid, but there was nobody in the tunnel, disappeared completely, left one footprint. And she said he was wearing a beanie hat and an old-style duffel coat, short duffel coat, and this is why we nicknamed him the Beanie Man. But he's been seen several times by the tours.
And our footprints, are they a very common thing to see?
No. We had one night of it where we had that one footprint, and then we went into the remand centre and found 3 more footprints that were bare footprints, either a child or a woman. And they were there for 3 days before they disappeared completely. So they were a bit odd.
But they weren't actually wet. They were actually stained into the cement, which is quite bizarre. Because I was going in and out that night, sort of moving equipment around, and they weren't there in the early part of the night when we came in about 11 o'clock-ish, I think it was. And then the footprints were there, and we actually touched them touched the cement. They were dry. It was actually stained into the actual cement itself. And then they just disappeared over, say, 3 or 4 days.
Right, so they're not like a wet foot making it.
Although the one in the tunnel that was soaking wet. It was size 11 or 12, under size 10, so I used me as an example because I was the only guy there on the night. And it had a distinctive sole and heel, and I've used the sort of flat shoes with the pattern, so it wasn't my shoe at all. Photographed it, of course, but it was actually wet. You can even see drip mark. The tunnel's about 6 metres long, but there's no footprints leading up to it and no footprints leading away from it, just one exactly in the middle. Very bizarre. But again, we got physical evidence. We don't know exactly what it means, but we've got physical evidence. So
I was going to ask you too, do you find actually there's more or less activity during thunderstorms? Does the weather have an impression?
Well, we did it twice in there after a thunderstorm, and both times we found it to be very active. Yeah, it seems to pick up with the storm.
And similarly, as the phases of the moon, if you'd found that made any difference at all?
Definitely. We actually find it's a new moon that we get more activity. Full moon seems to quieten everything down. Affects the living, but doesn't seem to affect the dead very much.
Yeah, I mean, that's an observation, because every investigation that was done was always we always downloaded the weather report and looked at the moon phases and the weather conditions and temperatures and things like that.
When ghosts or these sorts of things manifest, there's a very common idea that it gets colder. Have you found that to be the case?
Yes.
Definite drop in temperature.
Yes, because on the night I saw the apparition in September, Anna and myself, we went into the new building, which is where they executed 21 people, to lock up just before we left, and the temperature in there was literally like a refrigerator. The temperature outside was average, probably about 12 or 13, but walking inside it was literally like going into a refrigerator, where you could actually see a little bit of mist from the breath, and literally the teeth were chattering. Again, it was probably at least 10, 12 degrees colder inside the building, which wasn't like that only even a half an hour earlier.
So it's a very sudden drop in temperature as well.
Very sudden, yeah. And the interesting thing is, occasionally you'll get this incredible drop in temperature, but the actual gauges and the meters won't pick it up, which I've had a few times, where you'll literally be freezing, and the temperature on the ambience meter might still be showing 18 to 20 degrees. It doesn't happen very often. It happened at Kapunda, remember, in the thing was in the dining room when the early investigations. And it's happened a couple of times on investigations at the Adelaide Gaol as well.
When you have an experience like seeing that apparition that you saw in the Adelaide Gaol, is it always an unpleasant experience?
No. You see something, you're spending most of the time trying to work out in your own head, what am I seeing? Is it real? Is it not real? Is it something else? It's more, I think, to do occasionally when the atmosphere of the location becomes intense, you might say, or repressive. That tends to probably get you more on edge than actually seeing an apparition or a misty form. I've seen 2 or 3, and they actually haven't caused me any problem, except, what was that? The curiosity of it and the shock of actually seeing it, but not actually feeling anything.
And what about yourself, Alison? Have you found that to be the case, or do you find it unpleasant when you feel something or see something?
No, most of the time, as Jeff said, you're too busy going, wow, what's happening? And you're trying to analyse it. I've only ever had one time when I felt what I would say was pure fear, and it caught me by surprise, and that was up at Kapunda. And it's the first time in 20 years I've been that unnerved that I couldn't get out the car. So it was pretty intense.
And
feeling.
Would you be happy to tell me what it was that happened?
Yeah,